Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by today. Just wanted to do a video on my Set 5 Chancellor Palpatine Blue deck and a little bit of history with me and this deck. I really like weird decks. Anybody that's come from the Magic sphere, I used to be big into solving puzzles, I guess is the best way to look at it. Something like an Amulet Titan deck. I saw it and I immediately loved it. I thought it was really different, something that wasn't the status quo, and I saw it as a challenge. And my history in gaming has always been rogue decks. I like to try to make something that's really weird or odd and just try to go as mainstream as possible and see if I can get it to win. I guess saying mainstream is not really correct. Just want to get it to win. So anyway, that's sort of where my love for the odd deck comes in. And when the Chancellor Palpatine leader was spoiled in Twilight of the Republic, instantly I knew I had to play this. You don't get the leader flip, so there's no actual leader for this. So you're missing out quite a bit. And where you're trying to make up for this is by getting the leader to flip as frequently as possible. One of my favorite reactions to this is when Set 3 came out. Wu, Ophir, who finished fourth in the Worlds, he frequently puts leaders as far as if they're going to be playable. He does team maybe, team yes, team no, and varying shades in between. For this one, he just put all sorts of gibberish, and it was really great. I loved it, and I thought it was well done. So I put a lot of time and effort into cracking the code for this leader. And so some of the things that I can tell you after playing it for nearly a year is, and not exclusively for a year. I've just put a lot of time and effort into it. Lots of games online, lots of games with friends, um, and it's evolved quite a bit. And what we're seeing here on the screen is not even going to be the finished product. Very happy with where this is at the moment, but there's definitely room for improvement, and that's something that we're going to go over later. So this deck, I brought this deck to my locals today. Today is August 3rd. It's a Sunday, and this is kind of a weird caveat. We do 3 rounds, and I technically went 2-1 with this. However, I will say the final round I played against actually everybody at my LGS is, I would say, as a friend at this point, but one of my closest friends, Chuck. And Chuck he's a pro waiting to happen. He really is. Chuck, if you're watching this, you're awesome. You need to be playing big events. And yeah, you're terrific, really. The reason why the last game was a loss was because in round 3, he and I were both undefeated. And then we went to time. This this deck takes forever to play. So if you're not prepared to play a long game, don't play this deck or this version of it specifically. Anyway, we just decided that we would randomly determine who gets the 3-0. Should have been 2-0-1, okay? Which is pretty impressive to me. The fact that this deck was able to at least somewhat keep up with Chuck is pretty impressive to me. So with that all being said, I figured I'm going to go over the matchups today and talk about the theory of the deck first, talk about my matchups that I had, and potentially maybe where to go from here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is with this leader, if you decide to pick him up, you want to get as much value from this leader as you possibly can, which means ideally you would like to flip this leader as much as possible. What does that mean? So as far as we can see with this leader, the front side says as an action where if a friendly heroic unit was defeated this phase, draw a card, heal 2 damage from your base, then flip this leader. The back part of this card, the Darth Sidious side, action, exhaust it, only if you've played a villainy card this phase. And then you deal 2 damage to each opponent's base. I believe that's the wording. I could be wrong. And you create a 2/2 clone trooper token. Okay, so that's the basic of it. So you're healing 2 and drawing a card on the front. You're dealing 2 and making a token on the back. Sometimes there are going to be instances where you want to stay on one side over the other. And I really wanted to make it so it could function on either side equally well. So I want to go over some of the choices first, and then we'll talk about the matchups. This version of the deck is overloaded with turn 1 heroic plays. Ideally, what you want is either a Page Tico or a Kuiil. Kuiil is the glue. It makes this deck go. Kuiil is amazing. And he may not be particularly great in other decks. In this deck, he's absolutely nutty. Kuiil is such a good option in here. And I like to preface that with this version, I want to stay as blue as I possibly can. Why is that? Kuiil. One of the reasons is Kuiil. With his trigger, his on attack trigger, he's going to reveal the top card of your deck. If it shares a color with your base, in this case blue, instead of discarding that card and putting it into your discard pile, you're going to instead put that card in your hand. It's extremely important to hit that blue card with Kuiil because we ultimately want to set up the 4-resource Lieutenant Childson play. If I get Kuiil in my opener, my normal plan with him is to attack base once, get a trigger, draw the extra card, and then sending him off to his doom on the next turn. Sometimes that's not able to be done, and you just need to run him into his doom right away. It's fine. But the fact that you get an extra card sets up Childson, which is a very important thing. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to flip Palpatine right away, but there are some leaders, they want to kill something on turn 1, and we take full advantage of that. And we've got plenty to do with the dark side on the 3-resource turn. We'll go over that too. Kuiil is extremely important in my version of the deck. And the other one is Lieutenant Childson. Those two, if you want to play this deck, those two, I can't stress this enough, they're extremely important. Very, very, very important. So the rest of the 2-drop heroic plays, Lothwolf, set 5 brought us this, and I can't stress how important this is. Initially, I wasn't super thrilled with this card because it can't attack. It's a little bit of a downside because you can't get damage in with it. It's worth the trade-off. You're going to stymie a lot of the early ground plays with this unit, and it's going to stop you from taking damage. It is good, and I have changed my opinion on it. Page Tico, 3/2 for 2, and Vigilance, Heroism, Chef's Kiss. It's perfect. It's exactly what we want. We almost can guarantee it's going to die on the following turn. Again, we want it to die so we can flip Palpatine. We also have the restored Arc 170. It's a great option. It's a space choice. This isn't really a space deck, but we can contend a little bit in space. And some of the sideboard choices that I want to make down the road are going to revolve around that, I believe, here too. So for when we flip, I've got No Good to Me Dead. Sometimes that's important. This deck does often fall behind. Completely normal. And it's to be expected with this deck. You're not going to just dominate the board. It's not a real heavy aggro deck. But No Good to Me Dead is a solid piece to keep, something your opponent has locked down. And I did have more copies of it in the main at one point, but I've cut down just because I want to try to keep this as blue as I can. Again, for the Kuiil, the Childson, I want to have as many blue cards in my hand for those two things. And that's going to be a recurring theme here. And I believe if we look here, we've got the tech, the No Good to Me Dead, and the 3 merciless contests. I believe that's everything. So I may be missing something, but yeah, 5 cards total, 5 out of 50 that are not blue. Hasn't been a problem. However, I will say after sideboarding today, I did run into an instance where I milled Bazine, and it was kind of funny. So anyway, on to the 3-drops. So for villainy, we've got the Calculating Magna Guard ×2. This could be ×3. And this card is very sneakily good in this deck because you get the Sentinel when it's played. But some of the power of this is when somebody later in the game defeats something like your Anakin or your Luke, now all of a sudden this just gets Sentinel because you killed something else. It's great. It's very good. It's usually dependable. So I like it. I think 2 is good. For the 3s in space, we've got the Concord Dawn Interceptor. This card is so good at clogging up the space arena, especially against things like Vader. It just eats all the little units because they have no choice but to attack into it, and it eats 3 things, 4 things sometimes. It's very good. Some matchups I take these out completely, but they're the MVP against space decks for sure. Death Trooper, another card I would never cut. Or I would never build a version of this deck without Death Trooper in some capacity. The reason why is if you notice Page, I can play my Death Trooper and kill my Page and have a 3/3 Death Trooper. That's good because I can flip my Palpatine. So it's very good. It helps kill your own units, especially when you start making clone troopers. Kills all of your clone troopers and lets you save the Death Trooper. I've got 1 tech. This is actually my 51st card, and I'm playing it just as a hedge for late game. 2 Yoda. I did have 3 in here initially. The Restore 2 is very good, and when defeated, drawing a card, also good for the Chilton. It's also good in general to just have extra cards with this deck. Merciless Contest is another good way to sacrifice a heroic unit. Maybe you're having a hard time finding a way to get rid of one of your heroism units to flip your Palpatine. Let's say your opponent's playing space, for example, and you don't have a space unit, you've just got a Lothwolf. It's not doing anything. So you can Merciless Contest, get rid of your Lothwolf, get rid of your opponent's unit, and then you can flip your Palpatine. We also have the 3 Power of the Dark Side, which is just premier removal for sure. It does get a little tricky sometimes as far as when to spot this, because sometimes you'll see little units and you'll just play this and get rid of them. Usually you want to try to save these for the bigger units or for leaders. Perilous Position, I used to have 3 of these when set 4 was out, and I ran it with Razor Crest to get them back. I've since gone down to just 1, and I like it. I think it's good at 1. I could see 2, but I'm pretty happy with the 1. Childson is just so incredibly annoying. A 4-cost 6/6 Sentinel is so hard to deal with. We're talking this is turn 3. For those people that don't know, Lieutenant Childson comes from Star Wars A New Hope, where they're bringing Chewbacca to the prison in the Death Star, and it's the guy that goes, "Where are you taking this thing?" That's Lieutenant Childson. Super annoying, very hard to get past. Great unit. 1 Fell the Dragon. This could very easily be more, but for now, I'm sticking with 1. I'd also like to make room for another one in the sideboard. That's talk for later. 3 Vigilance. This was extremely crucial in some of the matchups today, and I'll go over why later. But the healing is great. The milling your opponent's deck is also huge. And one of the other modes that I use quite frequently on here is the shield aspect of this. It's very good. Anakin. This is arguably the best deck for Anakin because you're consistently hitting both sides of this without a problem. Getting a 5/7 that kills 2 things that have 3 hit points or less twice, that's pretty darn great, and it's worth the $40 price tag that we're seeing on the secondary market now. Rivals Fall is a consideration for Kylo decks. My LGS doesn't really run a lot of meta decks, but I do like this, and it actually came in clutch for me in one particular game we'll go over later. 3 Luke Skywalkers. Again, this is one of the premier cards. -3, -3, or -6, -6. It's very good. The Restore 3, very good. Supreme Leader Snoke, excellent card. I can't see it being 3 though. I just don't think that there's enough reason to warrant a third copy of it at this time. But reducing your opponent's units down by -2 is, it leads for some ridiculous trades. Super Laser Blast is necessary. I wouldn't mind running a third in here, not all matchups, but 2 is good, and 2 Avengers to round out the main deck, just as a way to kind of lock the game up. And that's pretty much the primary win con. So the matchups today. Round 1, I played against a mirror, Chancellor Palpatine Blue. And this is the only game that we actually finished. We didn't have to go to a game 3 or time wasn't called. And this went to milling each other out. His build is much different than mine. The deck itself is kind of all in the same vein. Ideally, this is a soft control deck. You really don't want to do hard control with this because it's too unwieldy to control something like that. I don't really know how you would build a hard control version of this deck and have it work reliably. Just in my own experience, if somebody has, please by all means leave a comment below. I'd love to see a list. I think that's really cool, but I can't imagine it personally. So Vigilance was huge. It was kind of a boring matchup because I would do something, he would do something. There was removal on both sides, and then we just kind of start over and we'd build up. And it really, in game 1, it just went to who drew the Vigilances first. I drew the first one, I drew the second one, and by the time my opponent drew the third one, I already had my third one in hand, and I just milled them out, and that was it. For those that don't understand the mill reference, it comes from Magic the Gathering. I don't want to get into the etymology of the term mill, but it's a term basically that means to take cards from the top of your opponent's deck and put them into their discard pile or their graveyard. And that's why you hear that a lot. There's a lot of people that used to play that game that use that term, and it's kind of stuck for good or for ill. So game 1, I ran him out of cards. One thing to remember, if you are going against a more slow and plotting control or soft control deck, you can certainly look at your opponent's discard pile to see what they have. I noticed that he brought in Bounty Hunter Crew. This was after late in the game, and that's a fantastic option. Kudos to him for bringing that in. I think it's a great strategy by all means, because it gives you a unit and it gets you your vigilance back, or it gets you your restock back, and it allows you to reload your deck with vigilances once again, and then get your opponent even lower on cards. Plus you've got a unit you can attack with. Very solid choice. I'm not running them in here. It could be a mistake. However, there's not a lot of room in the sideboard. 10 cards, you're not playing with a real lot. So the second game, he hit the first vigilance, he hit the second vigilance, but he didn't mill, no, he milled one of my vigilances. And we just went back and forth. We were getting towards the end of game 2. The store owner declared there was, I think, 5 minutes left, and I hit my next vigilance. So I played it, and I made him discard the 6 cards from his deck. Next turn, I drew the restock. And so for those of you that don't know this game, cards like restock will allow you to shuffle 4 cards from your discard pile, shuffle them and put them on the bottom of your deck. So what happened was, with restock, you can target itself. The effect goes off in this game, and it's not for every game, but in this game, when you play the restock, you can target the restock and use that to put back on the bottom of your deck. So I targeted my 3 vigilance and my restock, shuffled them, put them on the bottom of my deck, and I don't think he picked up on that. We got to the point where the very next draw, there was something that caused me to shuffle my deck, I believe. No, I was just very low on cards. I had 1 card left, and I put the other cards back, and then I drew one of the vigilances again, and he had just restocked and put his vigilances back. So I hit his deck and literally got rid of his restock and the rest of his vigilance there. And then I drew a restock again and I put him back, and that's when he saw that you can shuffle the restock back in as part of its own ability. That's neither here nor there as far as whether I think it should be done or not, but it is part of the rules. So I ended up winning that game. It was definitely a good game, and I really liked my opponent's version of this deck quite a bit. So I won 2-0. Round 2, I played against a Palpatine from set 1 with a Colossus base. And I had played this player before. I'm not going to use people's names for the rest of this, just in case I don't know if people want to be mentioned or not. So the guy that plays the deck is a very good guy. He's a regular, and definitely think very highly of this player. Really awesome. Most of the people that I play with are fantastic. So game 1, I knew he plays a lot of traitorous and a lot of effects that will take your units. So the Palpatine itself will, when it flips, it'll let you take a unit that's damaged. And there were many times where it got to the point where he had very much taken control of the board. And I knew this, and I was withholding units on purpose because I had Super Laser Blast in my hand. And that was going to be pretty much the main way that I was going to win the game, and I knew it. So I played the Super Laser Blast, and I think we were on 9 or 10 resources at the time. Cleared all the units. He redeployed, and I believe that I just had 2 or 3 Power of the Dark Sides, and then I just continued to vigilance him out. And that first game took forever. It took a very long time, and there was a lot of thought involved. It was really a classic game. Kudos to the Palpatine player for sure, because it was one of the better games that I had played in quite a while. So that one also came down to vigilance. It is a little bit of a theme here with that. The deck can win without running your opponent out of cards, but we'll get to that. I would say that's one of the primary win conditions, though. Second game, we got into it. We played for quite a long time, and it was very similar. I brought in the third Super Laser Blast because I knew I was going to need it. I brought in the 2 top targets just because I wanted to buy time and get some extra life when I could. And I believe that's it. I may have brought in 1 Bazine Natal. But anyway, we went to time for game 2, and I ended up winning 1-0. And I think that I was in a position where I was going to win anyway. I had another Super Laser Blast on my hand, and I was going to wipe the board, but it was a good game. I ended up winning 1-0. It went to time. So the last round, since I've already mentioned his name, Chuck, the guy that I think should be a pro, very talented guy. He's playing Mother Talzin, the red, so the blue-red forest base. And I had play test that matchup with this a few times online, and I had a very good outcome against it. I played against the green version and the red version, and I beat it both times with this version of the deck. So first game, he's playing a different version than the one that won the World Championship. And I honestly, I think in a good way. He had some Pershings to draw extra cards, really key card for him. If it goes unchecked, if you're playing against a slow deck and it lives, those cards are going to be extremely important for sure. And he made the most out of them. And he stuck to the board, and he played a lot of discard, and he was able to get me completely out of cards, I think twice, or down to 1 card. So I really had to pick and choose. But in the end, he got there. He got the 30 damage and killed me. It was a long game. I learned some stuff, so I decided to go to game 3. I played with What did I bring in here against him? I brought in the 2 Bazines and the 3rd Super Laser Blast, and I believe I brought in the Restock as well. It might have been the top target. There was 4 cards for sure that I brought in. Third game, I got to start, which he started the last one. And again, he set the pace, but I was able to match him a little bit more evenly here with removal and sentinels. His discard plan was great, but the Bazine was very well timed, and I was able to take his pillage with the first one. I forgot what it was for the second one. He just had removal and force lightning, which was fine. I could deal with him defeating my units, but I ended up, I believe, milling him out again with this. But I think that I had maybe 14 or 15 damage on his base at the time. Third game, we started playing. It was very close. He had a slight edge on board, but I had a super laser blast in hand. I had brought in the third one. We went to time, and normally you don't randomly determine who's going to win with like a dice roll because it's used to be considered collusion, but we're just playing LGS. We decided to go with that and just randomly decided, we'd flip a coin or roll a dice or something. The way that our event goes at the LGS is you get 1 pack per win. It's not like a huge deal as far as who wins. It's just you get an extra pack, big deal. So we decided to just roll for it, and he picked the correct thing, and I gave it to him in 3 games. So the fact that I was on par and I was able to contend with my friend that I really look up to, I think speaks volumes about how well this deck performs. Sideboard changes potentially. It's tough because the Village Protectors are against aggro, and I'm just assuming like if I can't flip, then I'm going to be stuck on heroism. It's a very sticky threat with the shield. I shouldn't really say threat. It's a very sticky choice because of the shield and it's a sentinel. Parliamentarians, I think that you have to have that to start at least because of the Kylo deck. I think that this deck is not good against Kylo at all. So if you have that a high amount of that in your meta, I probably wouldn't recommend this or changing the version some. Top target is against aggro. The restock is against the longer matches, the soft control, hard control. So is the Bazine. And the Super Laser Blast is just to get you another board wipe, so to speak. This deck definitely has an issue as far as closing the game, so I'm going to need to review that and try to get an idea of where I want to go. I may, and it's going to sound weird, I may consider doing something like a Zillow Beast just because this deck is all about clearing your opponent's units out. It's not the absolute best thing in the world, but it heals itself every round. I can kill units with it. And if it's something like a Sabine deck and I get that down, they're never going to be able to deal with that. So if you have ideas as far as a good closer, feel free to put it down. Right now, it's just the Avenger. But yeah, technically I went 2-0-1 at my LGS this weekend with this deck. I very much like it. Again, I want to stay as blue as possible just because of the Kuiil Childson interaction, essentially. That's the primary reason. I will say one other thing that was very impressive was I did play Concord Dawn Interceptor, and I was able to put Paige as a pilot on that, and that was really nice. I dealt a lot of damage to the Palpatine player, the second game, the set 1 Palpatine, and that ended up getting really big really fast until they took control of it with Traitorous, I believe. So one other thing to consider there is just the ability to just get that as a threat, like a really big threat. That's it for this week. I just wanted to go over Palpatine. It's my favorite leader, I would say, for the game. And if you have any feedback, if you have any questions, If you have anything that you would suggest as far as changing the deck up, by all means, please feel free to drop a comment, and I'd love to discuss it with you a little bit more. Please also remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. I'm planning on doing the Sunday recording as playing something at locals and just doing a report on it, and then during the week something else, maybe some strange deck or strange underloved leader where I make a deck around it and go from there. I have something in mind, but I want to see how it goes from there. Thanks again, everybody, for stopping by and checking this out. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thanks again. Take care.